So for around the last year, I've been keeping up with the news regarding the latest live-action Disney film, Snow White. And from the start, it really did seem like this movie was destined to be a commercial failure, as they tried to replace the dwarfs with the Justice Squad of diversity.
Photos just came out showing that the Snow White movie replaced the 7 dwarves with 7 average people instead. Do you think Disney made the right choice doing this?
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. You're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's 4 dwarfs.
Now obviously people absolutely hated that idea, a lot of people find these dwarves to be iconic, and then the 2 main talent in the film, Rachel Ziegler and Gal Gadot, went on a ton of interviews basically saying this rendition of the film was going to be altered quite a bit, with the main theme now being feminism.
Reality is that the cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in...
It doesn't matter. It's a historical story. Just stays true to the story. I mean, if it's 85 years old, cool, but it's an historical story. It's a classic, you know? But anyway.
Roles of power.
Also, the fact that she's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's the proactive one, and she's the one who set the terms.
Keep in mind, this film has technically been in the making since 2016, and with this being based on the first animated film ever, a staple in the Disney IP, fans had very high expectations. Now by 2021...
Wow, this is the first animated film ever? Snow White was the first animated film? Like, I guess movie? That's interesting.
And to really materialize, the film had now been casted, written, and they knew who the director would be. And then obviously it ran into these problems with public perception by the time the trailer would actually come out.
Yeah. Weird.
So Disney had to go back to the drawing board, which delayed the release of this film by an entire year. And in the end, the total budget for this movie was $209 million. And strangely enough, now that this thing is finally going to see the light of day, it seems like Disney is doing everything in their power to just get it over with. In fact, I would say they're downright sick of the headache this movie has become. And today we're going to talk about why Disney is basically saying, here, damn, with the release of this film. You've been having a lot of articles like this come out. Disney scales back Snow White Hollywood premiere amid Rachel Ziegler and Gal Gadot controversies. And when they say scaling back, this is what they mean. Disney is hosting a Hollywood premiere of Snow White on March 15th, which is in 2 days, but the studio won't be rolling out a robust red carpet like it usually does.
You know what, I be thinking, y'all, when it comes to actors, because like basically those 2 actors speaking out and speaking what they believe and speaking their mind basically, has delayed the process of the release of the movie after they done put $209 million into the movie. There has to be something where you can sign something, just like if you're if a person has an active like case, like their court case, plaintiff, defendant, whatever, right? And they're advised not to say anything to after the court case is over. So if they have if they basically still have an active case going on, it will behoove them, it will be wise for them not to do any interviews and to not to speak on the issue, only if they have their attorney with them until the case is over, right? Why don't they do the same thing with actors? When you put hundreds of millions of dollars in a budget in order for a movie to come out, why don't they have it where it's like the actors should be advised not to say anything about the movie or any ideologies or anything. Just stay off social media unless you have an attorney present until after the movie has been filmed when it comes to that particular movie. Something like that. That would just make sense, wouldn't it? I don't know.
The afternoon festivities will include a pre-party and screening at the El Capitan Theater, with star Rachel Ziegler and Gal Gadot. However, the red carpet will not include the dozens of media outlets usually invited by Disney to interview the cast and creatives at its premieres. Instead, coverage will be limited to photographers and a house crew. So it essentially seems like Disney wants as much control of this red carpet premiere as they can get. They don't want these people being asked any more spontaneously tough questions. They don't want this entire thing to become more political than it already has. And to a lot of people in the industry, this seems to be a pretty clear sign that Disney does not have a lot of faith in this movie. And the other reason people started to share that opinion was because of the way they decided to pre-sale the tickets for this movie.
Get tickets now for the magical, musical, movie event.
It's time.
I don't know what it is about this specific frame right here, but I feel like they just did her beyond dirty with this horrible CGI. I mean, they got her ass out here looking like a...
Well, actually, she kind of looks like the older Snow White. I've always thought that. They actually did a good job at casting. She looks a lot like Snow White, the older, from the original Snow White.
bobblehead. And overall, whoever styled her hair for this movie just did her beyond dirty. I mean, they got her out here looking more like Lord Farquaad than Snow White.
I think she looks like Snow White.
You dare to disobey me?
The queen stole it from all of us. Come on.
In theaters March
I think she looks
21st.
a lot like Snow
Disney's
White, to be
Snow
honest.
White.
Can you point me in the right direction?
And the other thing I think is that they made these dwarfs look like absolute shit. I mean, like, who the fuck is that? Old big face looking ass, old scary face looking ass. This shit's gonna haunt me in my fucking nightmares. I mean, I'm serious, guys. Don't you just want to smack him in his big old water head? But yeah, back to the ticket release. They would announce these back on March 10th, which is only 11 days before the actual premiere of this movie, like the public premiere. And that is very abnormal for a movie of this caliber that Disney spent so much money on. When you compare this release to something like The Little Mermaid, which was one of the last live-action movies that Disney did, you can see the big difference is that they released these pre-sale tickets about 1 month before the release date, which has now been like the current standard for Disney's bigger films.
Yeah.
Just for more reference, this is what The Little Mermaid premiere was looking like.
To celebrate the film's world premiere.
Basically what I'm trying to show here is that Disney is more accustomed to making an entire event about this. They love to invite all the biggest media outlets to come out and basically give them some good publicity in anticipation for a movie's release, where they will do things like invite celebrities to come on, they'll do an entire theme for the night. Basically, it seems like they'll actually give a shit. An inside source had this to say: they've been going through the motions on Snow White, all but saying, we need to get this thing over with. An advanced sales cycle of less than 2 weeks just screams, we have zero faith in this thing. And it couldn't come at a worse point when the industry is just trying to limp along to May. And obviously, guys, people do not go to the movies.
Imagine spending that much as a business and then dealing with something like that.
When I looked up some local tickets for this movie at some very popular locations in Austin, Texas, almost every theater I saw had not made one single sale. And I'm not talking about just for the premiere, which will be on like a Thursday, so you could say, oh, it's just a little bit of a weird day for someone to go take their kid to see a movie like this. Because I checked that Friday night, I checked the entire weekend, and literally every local theater I had checked had sold less than 2 tickets. Even before the LA premiere news, however, there was a sense that Disney was being a bit bashful about Snow White. One theater owner and a rival studio source says that Disney's massive marketing machine has been uncharacteristically quiet until recently, noting advanced ticket sales didn't commence until Monday, less than 2 weeks before the film's release. Many of the studio's live-action family tentpoles in recent years have typically become available to book.
That's why having a business that's dependent on people, especially like media, is a very risky business. Because if you have business in anything else, like for example, if you're in the steel industry, your steel is not like the steel is not going to have a social media post that somehow jeopardizes the business because of bad PR or something like that, right? Because it's just a piece of it's an inanimate object. It's not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize your business, right? But when you're putting your business in people, especially with the advent of social media now around, those people or persons, same thing, people or persons, those people could literally, you could put $10 million as an independent movie production studio, you could put $10 million of your own money, have them invest in the main character, everything about to go great, and then he or she does something to, like, in their personal life, or they come out and say something crazy that's in this cancel culture very offensive, that literally just destroys your whole business for that particular movie, and you put $10 million into it. That's a crazy business to have, is to have a business in other people. and dependent on other people.
And I think they did her even dirtier, literally, with those teeth. I mean, they got her out here looking like Lord Farquaad mixed with George Washington. In all reality here...
Yeah, I don't know what type of AI or CGI or TGI Fridays they had going on with that one. Like, they should have just left her regular teeth. Her regular teeth is just fine. She has nice teeth. Anyway.